No photographs are allowed, folks. Members, order, order, order. Members should put away their black, are not allowed to take photographs in here. Order, order, order. Members will restrain themselves. Members will restrain themselves. The question is the following one. Mr. LeBlanc, seconded by Mrs. Philpott, moved in relation to Bill C-14, an act to amend the Criminal Code and to make related amendments to other acts, medical assistance in dying, not more than one further sitting day shall be allotted to the consideration at report stage of the bill, and one sitting day shall be allotted to the consideration at third reading stage of the said bill. And that 15 minutes before the expiry of the time provided for government orders on the day allotted to the consideration at report stage, and on the day allotted to the consideration at third reading stage of the said bill, any proceedings before the House shall be interrupted if required for the purpose of this order, and in turn every question necessary for disposal of the stage of the bill then under consideration shall be put forthwith and successively without further debate or amendment. And now, if members will order, I will turn to the member for New Westminster Burnaby for a brief point of order, if that's what it is, or a question of privilege, whichever it is.
Mr. Speaker, I have never seen, I've been in this House now for 12 years, I have never seen what just transpired in the House of Commons. We had the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, step into a group of opposition MPs, push aside members of the NDP opposition, and manhandle.
Order. Order. I encourage members on both sides I want to hear the members' argument.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. He elbowed the member from Berthier and Mr. Speaker, he manhandled the whip of the official opposition. Physical force in this House is never permitted, is never welcome, and it is entirely inappropriate. The actions of the Prime Minister, I have never seen any member of the House act towards another member or members as he just did, Mr. Speaker. And I submit to you that's entirely inappropriate action.
I see the Prime Minister rising on this serious matter, and I just order. I've heard the Prime Minister rising. We've heard the member for New Westminster Burnaby, and it was important to hear him. And now I want to hear from the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we were gathered here for a vote, after the time had counted down, I observed our whip walking down the aisle to proceed with the vote. I had noticed that the official opposition whip seemed to be impeded in his progress down the hall. And I felt that this lacked in respect for Parliament and indeed for the function that the official opposition whip is endeavoring to deliver on all of our behalf. So I walked over to encourage the member to come through, and indeed offered my arm, extended, to help him come through the gaggle of MPs standing there, impeding his progress down the aisle, impeding our ability to move forward with this important vote. Mr. Speaker, in so doing, I admit I came in physical contact with a number of members as I extended my arm in, including someone behind me who I did not see. I certainly did not intend to offend or impact on anyone. I was simply concerned that, unfortunately, the decorum of this place has been impeded by the kind of preventing of the work that the whips are doing. If anyone feels that they were impacted by my actions, I completely apologize. It's not my intention to hurt anyone. It certainly wasn't. It is my intention to get this vote done.
I have a couple of comments for colleagues, and I want to hear from all members. Okay, there was an issue raised by the honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby. It was not raised as a question of privilege, but the Prime Minister has indicated his apology for his actions. Now, just a minute. Members ought to know, first of all, that if one whip walks down before the other and takes their seat, then the Speaker, it's either whip, the Speaker then reads the question and the voting process begins. Nothing else is required. That's what happens. That's happened before. That's happened before. Order, 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 order. It is not appropriate to manhandle other members. And I take it that the Prime Minister has apologized for that, I believe. However, for now, that will, I think, conclude the matter for now. And we can go on, I believe, to the vote. All those in favour of the motion will please rise. The honourable member for Simcoe Grey is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, the rules of this House are quite clear. It is an offence to the privileges of a Member of Parliament to in any way physically intimidate them or otherwise interfere with them. Today, I was witness to an extraordinary example of just such physical intimidation by no less than the First Minister of this country. And I witnessed as he strode across the floor with anger fierce in his eyes and face towards...
Order. 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 The member for, not Simcoe Grey, but York Simcoe, pardon me, has the floor.
Towards a group of individuals here. And I think the film will show, but certainly there are many other witnesses here who can speak to what they saw take place. And what took place was the Prime Minister physically grabbing people, elbowing people, hauling them down the way. And I'm sure his defense is that he was in some way on their behalf asserting their privileges. Well, that is not his job. It is the job of an individual member to assert their own privileges. It is his job to respect the privileges of every member in this House. O'Brien and Bosk is entirely clear on this matter, and that in a case such as this, the Speaker will normally find that the privileges of the members have been offended and that the conduct is unacceptable, and will make that finding of privilege. I will point out that the individual member, and I witnessed it all right in front of me here, and she is, I don't know if she's returned to the House, but she was so shaken up by the episode that she left the House. Her ability to participate in this vote was affected and denied. Her privileges were interfered with in a most direct and physical fashion that is unacceptable in this House. And I think you should make the appropriate finding in the circumstances, and I will invite any of my other colleagues who witnessed this to provide further evidence to the House.
I see the honourable member for Churchill-Kiewit-Nook-Askey rising on the same point of question of privilege.
Point of privilege, Mr. Speaker. I'm rising, Mr. Speaker, because I as well was a witness to what took place here, something that I don't think any Canadian could imagine would take place in the House of Commons. I witnessed the Prime Minister walk over and manhandle the whip of the official opposition, and as he was doing so, he actually pushed my colleague, a friend of mine, a young woman also who sits in this House, pushed her into the desk, and in fact, as he was pulling away, pulled her along with him, and pushed her physically into this desk, Mr. Speaker. I am ashamed that, as somebody who sits in this House, to have been witness to the person who holds the highest position in our country, the highest elect position, to have done such an act in this House. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, and we were witnesses in this House, I also want to say that for all of us who witnessed this, this was deeply traumatic. What I will say, and I'm unwilling to make this political, but Mr. Speaker, if we apply a gendered lens, it is very important that we recognize that young women in this space need to feel safe to come here, to work here, to speak here. From a feminist act. This act in and of itself made not only my colleague, and she can certainly speak to her own experiences, but I think for any woman, any young woman, and anybody who sits in this House, made us feel unsafe and are deeply troubled by the conduct of the Prime Minister of this country.
Order. The honourable member for Hull-Gatineau is the Hull-Aylmer se lève.
Is the honourable member rising on the same question of privilege?
I too had witnessed this event, Mr. Speaker. I would like to not try to take this any further than what has been described and what, frankly, Mr. Speaker, I think might have been exaggerated. But, Mr. Speaker, what I would like to say is that I did see the honourable member.
Order.
I did.
Order. We're here talking about members' privileges. We're talking about order in the House. So let's show the respect that we're looking for here. We're talking about is respect for other members. So let's show some, all of us, please. The honourable member for Hull-Aylmer has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If one wants to exaggerate the situation and to make this into something that it wasn't, to make this reminiscent of a dive in the 2006 World Cup, perhaps we can go on. But, Mr. Speaker, what had happened was exactly as a Prime Minister had described it. And it was certainly not a purposeful, and intentional movement. the person was out of sight and behind the speaker, behind the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, and it was only that.
Mark. There for a second.
Yeah. This is going well.
Good, good. The honourable member for Esquimalt, order, please. Order. We're here a little bit more. The honourable member for Esquimalt, Saanich Soo.
Rising the same question of privilege. We're speaking of privileges of members in this House. One of those things that we do in this House is we accept the word of other members. And I feel it's a violation of the privileges of the members who just spoke to question their word.
Microphone wasn't on. I asked the member to start over, please. When his microphone is on.
On a same and a related question of privilege. In this House, one of the privileges that we observe is to accept the word of other honourable members. And the member who just spoke questioned the word given in good faith of two members who just spoke. I will add my testimony. I saw the Prime Minister, I would use the word charge across the floor with intent and shove people with the intent of moving the whip down the aisle. An intentional action by the Prime Minister, which is unacceptable in the House of Commons, the use of physical force. As part of doing that, he knocked one of my colleagues into the desk, physically shoved into the desk. I witnessed this, right? And then she was unable to continue in the House. Her privileges were breached by the physical actions of the Prime Minister. So I would ask the Speaker to rule both on the question of the violation of privilege by the Prime Minister and also on the question of whether we accept honourable members' word in this House or not.
First of all, it is. I see the honourable member for l'honorable député de Berthier-Masconanger.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to express.
Go ahead. I was the member in question. I was standing in the centre talking to some colleagues. I was elbowed in the chest by the Prime Minister, and then I had to leave. It was very overwhelming, and so I left the chamber to go and sit into the lobby. I missed the vote because of this. I just wanted to clarify and make sure it's clear to all the members in the House that that did happen. Thank you.
Order. I want to make it clear that we do accept the word of other colleagues in this House, and now I call upon the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take the opportunity, now that the member is okay to return to the House right now, to be able to express directly to her my apologies for my behaviour and my actions, unreservedly. The fact is, in this situation where I saw, no, I'm not, explanations, not, Mr. Speaker, I noticed that the member, the opposite member whip, was being impeded in his progress. I took it upon myself to go and assist him forward, which was I now see unadvisable as a course of actions and resulted in physical contact in this House that we can all accept was unacceptable. And I apologize for that unreservedly, and I look for opportunities to make amends directly to the member and to any members who feel negatively impacted by this exchange and intervention, because I take responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mark? I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the comments of all the members who have spoken, and I appreciate the Prime Minister's apology. Having said that, I cannot help but find a prima facie case of a question of privilege, and I call upon the honourable member for York Simcoe to move the appropriate motion.
Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that finding. I will be brief and simple. I will move that the matter of the physical molestation of the member for Berthier-Masquinage be referred to the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs.
Debate. The honourable member from York Simcoe.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I believe that we have seen and heard evidence from everybody here that makes it apparent that such an occurrence took place, that the member's privileges were violated, as you found in your preliminary finding. And this is a very serious matter, because it isn't something that can be cured by a simple apology. We see that the member's privileges were offended to such a degree that her vote was lost. The most fundamental and basic right of representation in our Westminster parliamentary system. Even the most heartfelt apology, and I'm not sure we had that, but even the most heartfelt apology is not sufficient to compensate for such a violation of one's privileges. And when one combines it with the physical nature of the violation that took place, I think this is a very significant matter. I've read about this stuff in history books from the 19th century. I have never seen such a thing in my lifetime. And as a result, I think that it's very clear that this House should move quickly to vote on that matter and have the matter referred to the committee for the appropriate study, appropriate recommendations, and to examine how we can avoid such an unfortunate occurrence in the future.
Debate. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it's actually my hope not to debate this further. We're about to go, Mr. Speaker, I hope, to a serious debate on a very important piece of legislation, medical assistance in dying. Mr. Speaker, I would hope if you would seek it, you might find the consent of the House to send this to the Procedures Committee. We're comfortable with the committee looking at this matter. That's the place where this issue should be dealt with. And then the House could get on, Mr. Speaker, with this important issue of discussing medical assistance in dying.
Well, first of all, it being after 6 p.m., the House, if it were to proceed now, would be proceeding to private members' business after 6 p.m. Secondly, is the honourable government House leader propose asking unanimous consent to adopt the motion? Is that what he's saying? That the motion be adopted unanimously? No. Okay. Then it seems the debate would continue in that case. L'honorable député de Beauport, Côte de Beauport.
Mr. Speaker, when we carry the title of Prime Minister of Canada, it is important that we behave in such a way as to represent Canada. This was incredibly. This shows that he is utterly incapable of holding himself as the Prime Minister of Canada.
The honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is a very, very serious matter, and I would hope that the Prime Minister would be here to listen to the words of opposition members.
The member knows that we don't call attention to the presence or absence of any member in the House.
Point out that Justin left. Just don't say it.
Mr. Speaker, there is another element to this, which is I think, like most members of the opposition, we're still quite shocked by what we saw on the floor of the House of Commons. And there is not a parallel that I can think of. Certainly in contemporary Canadian history, we sometimes hear of members becoming physical in other legislatures in other countries, but that is not Canada, and that is not our democratic traditions, Mr. Speaker.
Here, we have respect for all democratic values. Sometimes we disagree, or we don't agree. But we listen to each other, and that's what's supposed to happen. But there's been a deterioration in the recent weeks. The government doesn't seem to want to respect opposition members, and we're seeing that increasingly. We've seen it, Mr. Speaker, and it's for just the past few moments that I've in fact, I rose to address Motion 6, which is another way of suppressing democracy here in Canada. And just a few hours later, the government presents an unprecedented motion, and we see the Prime Minister, who appears to give himself the right to physically enter into contact with the member for Leeds-Grenville, our member, the member for Berskine-Angers. Mr. Speaker, it's unacceptable, completely unacceptable. And for the Liberals to laugh or to say, oh, we'll compare this to a soccer match, I find that very sad. Mr. Speaker, there are some Liberal members who don't seem to understand what the Prime Minister did, and that is completely unacceptable.
We've had Liberals laugh at this. We've had Liberals make jokes and compare it to a soccer match. And I think, Mr. Speaker, I can speak for all four of the opposition parties, regardless of who did that, who pushed another member. If it was a member of the opposition, I've no doubt that member of the opposition would be the first to stand up and apologize unreservedly to any members where he pushed around. In the case of the government, we didn't see that apology, and the apology came in a very roundabout and mitigated way. Mr. Speaker, this is an opportunity in this debate, and I hope that there are other members that will rise up to speak on this. This is an opportunity for all members to say very clearly to the Prime Minister or anyone else who would like to push physical altercations here on the floor of the House of Commons that in Canadian democracy we listen, but we do not hit or push or manhandle. We respect each other despite our differences, Mr. Speaker. That should be the message that comes from all members today.
My apologies to members. We should be going to questions and comments, which I'll do now. Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for King Vaughan. Better be careful.
I was actually standing to make a comment. I will try to turn it into a question. My comment was basically from the perspective where I witnessed the whole episode, and I will come to my question. So please let me frame my question. So I witnessed the whole episode, and I would like to ask my colleague who is bringing this forward, is it not important to understand intent? And there is no way, so what?
Let me say again that we are talking fundamentally here about respect for each other and the kind of respect that we want to see shown in this place for each other. So I urge colleagues to do that now, whether they like what they hear or not. That's the whole point of showing respect for each other in this place. Even if you don't like what you hear, you still have to do it. The Honourable Member for King Vaughan has the floor.
So what I witnessed was the Prime Minister striding across and coming to the group that was gathered and blocking the way of the opposition House Leader. As he strode across, the group moved apart, and he reached through and moved the House Leader through. At the point that he did bump into another member. But I believe there was no intent to harm anyone or to actually bump into anyone. And what I'm trying to ask the member from the other side, is it not important and relevant whether there was a real intent to do any harm here or whether it was an accident?
Right. Second. The Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And given the gravity of what just transpired on the floor, I still find it difficult to understand why Liberals members are questioning or trying to, in some way, justify what is unacceptable. It doesn't matter which member did it to whom. It is absolutely not justifiable to hit or push or manhandle any member of Parliament at any time, in any place. It is simply not acceptable. Not acceptable. I fail to understand why the government members do not understand that it is simply unacceptable what transpired tonight. And a half roundabout apology minutes, 20 minutes later, simply, I don't think, conveys the importance of apologizing unreservedly right away for actions that were wholly and totally and always inappropriate.
Hear, hear.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan's Milkmain Nicolet.
Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious issue, and I'm glad that we have so many members of here to be able to debate on this important motion. Mr. Speaker, I think all of us agree that any material breach of a Members of Parliament's privilege needs to be addressed as quickly as possible. Now, the Honourable Speaker has said that this behaviour is unacceptable. obviously he believes that there's been a breach in those privileges. Does he not agree, Mr. Speaker, that no one, when you have the embodiment of the government involved in stopping a member of Parliament carrying out their duties for their constituents, is there no greater material breach? And if the member could comment on that.
Mr. Burnaby.
It's very clear to me. I thank the member for his question, and it's very clear to me. And Mr. Speaker, you've ruled in the only way you could rule to the motion from the member from York Simcoe, that it is a breach of parliamentary privilege. But beyond that, that behaviour is inappropriate on the floor of the House of Commons. It is inappropriate in a community centre. It is inappropriate on any main street or any park of any of our cities in Canada. It is simply inappropriate. There is no other way to put it, Mr. Speaker. It was inappropriate physically assault two members. It is inappropriate to drag a member halfway across the House of Commons. It is still surprising, I think, to all of us on the opposition side who saw it. And yet we have members on the government side that are trying to justify it and don't seem convinced. And this debate will continue, I think, and there are other members that will contribute to this debate. But the debate will continue until we have every member on the government side saying this is inappropriate. Physical violence is inappropriate, and we will not permit that from anyone, even the Prime Minister of Canada.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Churchill, Hewitt, Newcastle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to, in my colleague's comments, you referred to, what happened here as being unacceptable anywhere, and I think, Mr. Speaker, what my question would be is if you could speak to just how unacceptable what took place in this House was. I mean, we as parliamentarians are counted on to come forward with policy, with legislation, when it comes to harassment, when it comes to bullying, when it comes to ensuring safe workplaces, when it comes to fighting violence against women, when it comes to fighting sexual violence. And here what took place in this House was physical violence. In fact, we know, and outside, people would call what happened here assault. So, Mr. Speaker, when we are talking about something as serious as what took place in this House, would anyone in this House find this? Would anyone in this House or anywhere across this country find that kind of conduct, not just of a Prime Minister, but of anyone, acceptable?
The member for New Westminster, Burnaby.
C'est très clair.
It is clearly unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. Unacceptable in a community centre, here in the House of Commons, unacceptable in a workplace, in a park, in our communities. I think that all Canadians understand that. There are people here on both sides of the House who have experienced violence in their families. In my case, my aunt was beaten to death. We know that small acts of violence can lead to larger acts of violence. That is why we must have a policy of zero tolerance for violence. Zero tolerance, period. We cannot accept it. We cannot excuse it. We cannot compare it to a soccer match, as the member for Hull-Aylmer did. Incredible. I can't even understand his remarks. It's saying it's like a soccer match. That is inexcusable, the comments that we've seen from the government benches since the Prime Minister did what he did. I'm happy that the member for Churchill has raised this. It's unacceptable, period. Physical violence is unacceptable, period. We do not accept violence, minor, major, regardless, it's not acceptable.
You can go on the debate. You should get to your chair if you want to do that. There's time for one other short question. The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've been torn about trying to intervene on what I saw or didn't see, but I felt I had to rise because my friend, the honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby, at one point spoke for me as all four parties in opposition, and I just want to try, if possible, to put some oil on troubled waters, bridges over troubled waters. Forgive me. What we saw was unacceptable, but let's keep perspective. What I saw that was unwise and unacceptable was that the Prime Minister deliberately tried to move a vote along. There was some mischief. Let's face it, there was some mischief on the floor. There was. I'm sorry, there was an attempt to slow down the vote. There's no doubt about that, but it was innocent mischief. Let me finish what I'm saying. I'm trying to keep perspective.
Order. Order, 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 order. Member didn't see that I stood up. I implore colleagues, this is a debate which members are going to have very strong feelings about, and they're not all going to agree, but it's a debate about respect for each other and for this place. So I implore colleagues to help with the image of this place now by showing respect for each other. Order. The members for Kenora and Windsor West will come to order. Order. We'll now hear again the member for Saanich Gulf Island.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have respect for everyone in this place, but I also have respect for all Canadians, and I think an attempt at a reflection on what just transpired could be useful for Canadians. It was most unwise of the Prime Minister to attempt to move along the vote by moving along the member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau. That movement was clearly a contact that was unwanted. But the second contact with my friend, the member for Berthier, Ms. Cononge, which is certainly the one that was the most emotional for the member involved, was clearly, from my perspective, I confirm what the member for King Vaughan's representative said, unintentional. And I have to say that I saw the Prime Minister approaching and following the honourable member, trying to reach her and saying how very sorry he was. He had not seen her behind him. That is the truth. Now, you can like it or you cannot like it, but nothing that happened here today reflects well on us. We do not want to start looking like the House of Commons. We do not want to be the House of Commons for some country that other countries watch on CNN and wonder what's become of us. We are grown-ups.
I'm going to ask the honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby to keep his answer quite short.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think the point that the member is making is exactly the same point that we are all making. Physical violence is unacceptable. And whether or not it was intended to push or elbow another member, it is inappropriate. And it was absolutely inappropriate to manhandle the whip of the official opposition. And so I would hope that all members would join together, not excusing, not explaining, not making references to soccer matches, but join together to say a physical confrontation or pushing of any nature is unacceptable in this place and unacceptable across the country.
Debate. The honourable member, the honourable Chief Government Whip.
It's a point of order, I think.
Mr. Speaker, an emotional issue on an emotional day. There's been an unreserved apology from the right honourable member. An unreserved apology. May I suggest that, as proposed by the right honourable member opposite, that we forward this to the appropriate committee and let the ruling unfold as it may.
So I gather, I think the honourable member was asking unanimous consent to adopt the motion. It sounds like there's no unanimous consent at this point to do that. So the member had the floor on debate if he wishes to continue, but because we'll go to questions and comments now. questions and comments? Oh, it was a point of order. It was a point of order. Excuse me. It was a point of order. Okay, debate. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do have a few thoughts that I would like to share with members. One of the things that's really important to recognize, I believe, Mr. Speaker, is that at the end of the day, what we have witnessed is something in which no doubt all of us will want to reflect on. And I would ask members to be courteous as I try to express what my thoughts and feelings are with respect to the issue. Mr. Speaker, I have had the opportunity through many, many years of being a parliamentarian, most of it, 25 years, in opposition. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, that there have been other occasions. What I look in terms of, for example, that took place in the 90s, no, I'm speaking on the motion for the member, and if he was tentative in listening, he would understand the point. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to reflect on an issue that, and I use it just as an example. There was a very heated debate inside the Manitoba legislature that had taken place during the 90s, where I witnessed members from the opposition coming forward, approaching the Premier's bench, shaking fists, suggestions of violence and so forth, Mr. Speaker. I believe at the end of the day, when I reflect on that and what took place there, what I reflect on is that at the time there was a great deal of emotion around an issue that was being debated inside the chamber. Mr. Speaker, I sat very patiently listening to other members address which is a very serious issue. I would ask that they respond in kind and listen in terms of what it is that I have to say on this very important issue. Mr. Speaker, we do need to take and put things into a perspective, much like what I did back in the 90s when there was issues that took place where we had members leaving their seats, suggesting all sorts of behavioral issues, many of which I saw today that included the Prime Minister and others, Mr. Speaker. I do believe that the Government House Leader, in a responsible fashion, has made the suggestion that we allow the matter to go before procedures in House Affairs, where in fact we will have a good, healthy discussion where we can take into consideration many aspects of what it is that we witnessed here today, Mr. Speaker. That is indeed the responsible thing for us to do. To be able to continue on understanding the perception in terms of what has taken place over the last couple of days, I know firsthand because I participated in it, as many members have. There has been a very emotional debate with respect to C-14, as the government has attempted on numerous occasions to be able to allow that debate to go on so that all members would in fact be able to speak. On the other side, Mr. Speaker, we have seen the opposition try.
Order. Order. A point of order, the honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, as much as we generally take a liberal attitude towards topicality in this place, we are debating a question of such importance, and the honourable member is now trying to divert this to make this about a completely different issue, to argue about things like extending debate hours. I think this is totally unacceptable. We have a very important issue in front of us that Canadians expect us to deal with, and we need to have some sticking to relevance on this issue so that we can address it in a proper way.
On the same point of order, the honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
I believe that if you were to peruse Hansard, you would find that I'm absolutely relevant to the issue at hand. What we're talking about is an incident that had occurred not that long ago on the floor of the House. Using my parliamentary experience, I was reflecting on a similar incident from the Manitoba legislature that took place on the floor there, and I'm drawing the comparison, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the emotions of the day that took place there and how relevant it is to the emotions that we're experiencing over the last couple of days here on the floor of the House of Commons. I would suggest to you that it is, in fact, relevant.
That's on the point of order, I take it. Just a moment. Members know that while members are encouraged to keep their comments relevant, that the chair in all circumstances gives a broad leeway, but I do encourage members to keep them as relevant on the topic. And the honourable member has the floor. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I will, as much as possible, try to ensure House members that we on the government side, I believe, are taking the matter very seriously. And this is the reason why, when we look at the motion that has been brought forward by the House Leader from the New Democratic Party, that we want to respond in a very favourable fashion. And that's why I'm encouraging members to recognize, if you really genuinely believe that this is an issue in which we should be dealing with, the proper way to deal with it is in the motion that has been moved. And that is that the matter go before the Procedures and House Affairs Committee, where in fact, Mr. Speaker, we will be afforded the opportunity, and I'm prepared to work the entire summer if need be, Mr. Speaker. We are afforded the opportunity to be able to hear what every member has to say with respect to what took place this afternoon. I think that it is very important as legislators, Mr. Speaker, as parliamentarians, that we recognize that the most valuable way in which we can contribute to trying to draw this issue to a conclusion is to allow the Procedures and House Affairs Committee to do what it does best, and that is to deal with privileges. Mr. Speaker, I have sat on that particular committee. I have seen in terms of how beneficial that committee is in terms of being able to serve the House. I would suggest to you that if people are genuine in wanting to see this issue resolved and the issue of privilege resolved as quickly as possible, that we have an outcome, I would suggest to you, Mr. Speaker, that what we need to do is we need to allow the Procedures and House Affairs Committee do its job. And I know the membership of that committee is more than happy to make this a first priority in terms of their agenda, Mr. Speaker, and I suspect that you will find that there will be consensus from all members of the Procedures and House Committee in order to do that. And this is the reason why I would suggest to you, Mr. Speaker, that what we need is to be able to see what we need to be able to see, Mr.
Order. The honourable member for Calgary-Mindapore.
Mr. Speaker, as you will know, the convention of this place not only is to be pertinent to the matter on the floor, but to avoid unnecessary repetition. And we are getting an endless string of repetition by this member who does not want other members to speak to the motion. I would ask that you bring him to order.
Thank the honourable member. That he knows that members have a broad leeway. I always encourage members not to repeat themselves. The honourable Parliament. And by the way, in this debate, the speeches are 20 minutes each. At 7 o'clock, we'll be going to the late show, but the debate would continue tomorrow unless members were to decide otherwise, by unanimous consent, that is. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, and again, I must admit I'm a little bit disappointed in the sense that I sat very patiently listening to many members of the opposition talk about what they felt and express what they felt had taken place. And I believe that the government members have actually been very held themselves actually quite well in terms of listening to the emotions that were coming across the way. I don't think it's that much, Mr. Speaker, to ask that opposition members return that same sort of respect. And the point that I was getting at, and I believe does need to be emphasized, Mr. Speaker, is that we are, in fact, wanting as much as possible to see the matter brought to the attention of the Procedures and House Affairs Committee. I do believe that the committee is in a position to be able to deal with it. And, Mr. Speaker, when we take a look at privileges that have been brought to the House in the past, there have been privileges, and the most recent one in which I was involved in dealt with members not being able to have access into the House, and it was related to security issues where we had members that were unable to or felt that they were being impeded, Mr. Speaker. And I believe through the experience that I had in sitting in Procedures and House Affairs, what I had witnessed both publicly and while the committee was in camera was a high sense of goodwill and understanding, and ultimately the Procedures and House Affairs Committee was able to provide a report. I am suggesting to you, Mr. Speaker, that what it is that's been asked of, and even if you reflect on your ruling, is something to the very same effect. And therefore, I would suggest to you that the House would be best served if, in fact, we allowed it to go to Procedures and House Affairs. And for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that, and more than just suggest, I would like to move that the previous question be put at this time.
Hear the whips.
Mr. Lamoureux, seconded by Mr. Vaughan, moves that the question be now put. Questions and comments?
Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, like a third of the members of my caucus, I've only been here for 7 months, but I spent 7 years in the National Assembly of Quebec. I was a parliamentarian for 7 years before this, and I have been watching politics for about 40 years now. What we saw earlier, Mr. Speaker, is something I've never seen. It was utterly unacceptable and undignified for any member, and particularly from the Prime Minister of all Canadians. Unacceptable. I will remind you of the events. I was physically here. I saw this from about 10 feet away. I was there. The Prime Minister got out of his seat, crossed the room, went through some MPs, pushed a few out of the way, took the opposition whip by the arm, and pulled him through, pushing an NDP member out of the way, and then went back and sat down. So at the base, Mr. Speaker, just that is unacceptable, and worse, not noticing that the situation was not going on, with the look of a frustrated boxer, went across the room again, went to talk to the NDP, came up into the stairs here to try and speak to the same colleague. It's utterly unacceptable. Utterly unacceptable from the Prime Minister. It's an indignity. It's undignified. It's not acceptable for any parliamentarian. Any parliamentarian.
Order. The Honourable Permanent Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Thank you.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, and one of the reasons why I do believe that this matter needs to go before the Procedures and House Affairs Committee is that I believe at the end of the day that we will get a better reflection in terms of what has actually taken place, Mr. Speaker. And again, I would emphasize that I have witnessed on other occasions. It was just a couple of years ago where I just stood on the other side, where I was actually speaking, in which I had another member come up approaching me in a very different fashion that one might have said was unparliamentary, Mr. Speaker. You know, we have to understand and we have to appreciate in the emotions of debate. At times, some things happen that we all wish might not have happened. And what I don't necessarily believe, Mr. Speaker, is that we should allow for any form of exaggeration, quite possibly, that might have taken place, Mr. Speaker. I think it's important that we stick to the reality of the events. We need to reflect on other incidents that have taken place. And the best way to do this, Mr. Speaker, is through the Procedures and House Affairs Committee, and that's...
On questions and comments, the honourable member for Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very shaken by the events of today. I've spent most of my adult life fighting against violence against women, fighting against violence in general. When I saw the Prime Minister, someone in this honoured House that we all fought to sit in, to stride across with such purpose towards us, and as he was entering the small circle of us that were standing there, he swore, and he said, "Get the bleep out of the way." And he pushed his way into the circle we were standing in. He grabbed the opposition House Leader, dragged him out, and in so doing, elbowed my colleague quite viciously. She was hurt. She was very physically hurt. And I want no member of this House to stand and say that she was not. And no member of this House to judge what she said. I also want to say that what we're talking about here is a choice. The Prime Minister stood up, made a choice to walk across that aisle, to walk towards those members. And in doing so, he chose that, and we're looking at here, we're talking about intent versus impact. And when we talk about violence, we talk about the impact. The impact is that my colleague's parliamentary privilege was violated, and she had to leave this House missing a vote. That is the impact, not to mention the physical impact that she endured. And we have to all ask ourselves, if this was our mother, our wife, our sister, our daughter, would we be having this conversation in this House? And when we walk through those doors, we wear that duty and that burden more heavily. And we should all take this very seriously today and say that we do not accept violence in this House. So will the opposite member please stand and say that we will not accept violence in this House, regardless of the intent. When it has an impact on another member, it is not acceptable.
Allow the Honourable Prime Secretary, the Government House Leader, to the brief answer, and then we'll go to the late show.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think that it is worthy of noting that when we make reference to violence, there's two very quick points. One is that, Mr. Speaker, that we need to recognize how important it is that all members be allowed to vote. And there was other issues surrounding what had taken place. I happened also to be there, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to share those stories at the Proc Committee too. There's a lot more that does need to be told. It's not just a reflection of the Prime Minister of Canada. The second point, Mr. Speaker, it is about behaviour. And I have seen some very angry faces in the past try to intimidate in different ways, Mr. Speaker. So I would be very careful about throwing stones in glass houses. I suggest to you we need to get this issue before Proc. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.